Did you know that the US spends more on healthcare per person, and yet we only rank 40th to 70th in overall life expectancy? In today's video, we're gonna go over some eye-popping statistics about really, man, what the problem is, why we do so poorly as a nation for our overall health outcomes, how sick we are as a society, but also hopefully shed some light on not how broken the system is necessarily, but steps that we can take to actually take better care of ourselves and to live a God-honoring life and experience the health that we were designed to experience. I'm Dr. Will, a family wellness chiropractor, and it's our passion to help families unlock their God-given healing potential. We truly believe that when God put you together, He didn't make mistakes. So you were designed to be healthy. Whether you're frustrated with rising healthcare costs or you're just struggling to figure out what decisions to make for you and your family, this video is for you. We're going to dive into what's wrong with the system, what you and I can do to make a difference in our lives, and then maybe what it looks like for you to impact the next generation as well. I actually wrote down some of these numbers because I want you to actually feel the gravity of what's going on with this. For 2019, World Health Organization ranked the United States 40th out of 183 countries. United Nations has the most recent numbers, 2023, and they ranked us 55th out of 210. So, I mean, with all of these, we're 40th to 58th out of the top 200 countries in the world. That's not great, right? Now, that's not to say that the countries above us or the countries below us take better or worse care of their population. I would argue that here in America, we have one of the best emergency medical systems in the world. However, we're so focused on disease treatment that we forget that prevention and proactive measures are dramatically more important, right? Think about it like this. When we look at costs, so we are average at best for our overall life expectancy, is according to the OECD health statistics from 2023. Per capita spending on healthcare in the United States, we were number one on the list. We spent over $12,000 per year health spending per capita. We spend 2 to 3 times as much on our healthcare as any other nation on the list. And yet again, we only get average outcomes. So why do you think that is? Again, I don't think it's because we have a broken system, and I don't think it's because we have terrible healthcare in America. I think, again, we have one of the best emergency and trauma and crisis care systems in the world. However, when we look at what we spend money on here in America, chronic disease like heart disease, diabetes, and obesity account for almost 90% of US healthcare costs, while less than 5% of what we spend is allocated for preventative measures. That's according to the CDC. Shockingly, 6 in 10 adults, 60% of our adults have one or more chronic illnesses. Worse, 43% of children in America have one of the top 20 chronic disease conditions that plagues adults in America. That's insane. We are a sick and suffering society. And again, it's not because we don't have great medicine. It's because we put so much emphasis and effort on treatment and not enough on prevention and promotion of health from the inside out. Imagine it like this. If you walk into your bathroom and you have a leaky faucet, you can just keep mopping up the leaky faucet, or your toilet's leaking or something like that, like a leaky roof. You can keep going in and mopping up the floor, put a bucket underneath it. Maybe we can patch the ceiling a little bit, but eventually the water is just going to break around that. Does that make sense? Rather than going outside and actually rebuilding the roof and making sure it's sealed from the outside in, that would be promoting the way that your building's supposed to work, right? Instead of fixing the leak, so many of us just keep mopping up the mess, and that's how we treat health here in America by and large. And so we know that chronic disease is a huge factor in our overall health spending, but also why we're so sick as a nation. And so we're not set up to prioritize prevention and health promotion. We're really just chasing symptoms and doing disease treatment. So what would it look like if we flip the script? What would it look like if we actually turned that around? We often wait until we're sick in order to take better care of ourselves. But what would it look like if we started making those choices now preventatively so that the sickness might not happen in the first place? I think that's a better idea, don't you? So think about your car. There's another way to think about it. Like, do you change the oil only when the engine starts to smoke? Or do you do it proactively every 3,000 miles, 5,000 miles, whatever the interval is for you and your vehicle, right? Do you just wait to rotate the tires until you have a flat on the side of the road? Or do you take it in every 6 months and make sure that they're taken care of? We understand that if we don't take care of our car, it's going to break down. But most of us don't do that for our body. And so that's what I want us to start to think of a little bit differently. And it's not... So many of us think that if we feel bad, we must be sick. And if we feel good, we must be healthy. But that's not always how it works. Feeling bad doesn't always mean that we're sick, and feeling good doesn't always mean that we're healthy. Think about this. Every year, over 800,000 people in America have a heart attack. Think about that. 800,000 people in America every year have a heart attack. That's 2,000 of them every day. That's one heart attack every 40 seconds. That's a lot. Of these, 75% of those are a first-time heart attack. So 75% of those are a first heart attack. And about 1 in 5 are completely silent. They're only detected later on when other tests are being run. Oh, wow, you had a previous heart attack. 600,000 heart attacks a year are first-time heart attacks. 20% of those have no pain symptom associated with it. And it's even more pronounced when we look at women. 62% of women who have a heart attack do not experience chest pain, which means we can be very sick and have something very wrong going on in the body, and we might not feel that there's a problem. It might not show up until much later on. The flip side, feeling good doesn't not necessarily mean that we're healthy, and feeling bad doesn't necessarily mean that we're sick. Flip this around. Like, think about food poisoning. Many of us have experienced that, and it's not a pleasant experience, right? We eat something that's been maybe a little bit warm on the counter for too long, or sitting out, or maybe it's been in the fridge for 2 or 3 weeks, and maybe we're like, we'll risk it. And we eat it, and we immediately regret it 30 minutes later because we are stuck in the bathroom for the next 2.5 hours, purging and getting rid of everything that we possibly could have eaten for the last 2 weeks. Sometimes it feels like that. Don't want to be too graphic, but everybody's had food poisoning or knows somebody who has, and you do not want to experience it. We all understand this. Think about this. If there's bad stuff in your stomach, what do you want your stomach to do? You want it to get rid of it. Does that make sense? It doesn't feel good when we're getting rid of it, when we're purging the contents of our stomach. But is it the sick response of the body, or is it the healthy response? It's actually the healthy response. It's your body's doing exactly what it's supposed to do, what it's programmed to do, is get rid of toxins so that the problem doesn't travel farther, deeper down in the system, doesn't get any worse. Does that make sense? Another example, half of the population is women, and most mothers, the most painful experience that they'll have in their life is childbirth. Other than a kidney stone, most women, the most painful experience that they'll have is the birth of one of their children. Like, we should all be able to agree, it's a miracle, but that miracle hurts, right? And so none of us should be able to say that there's something wrong in that moment. There's not a disease. There's nothing damaging happening to mom. But it means pay attention. Pay attention to what's happening, because your life is about to change forever. And so pain does not necessarily mean that there's a problem. It just tells us to pay attention. Think about, like, in your car, when the check engine light comes on, it doesn't tell you that it's time to change the oil. It doesn't tell you that you need to replace the wiper blades. It doesn't tell you that you're about to blow up a piston. It just tells you, pull over to the side of the road, take a look and see there's something that needs your attention. Does that make sense? And so feeling good doesn't necessarily mean that we're healthy. Feeling bad doesn't necessarily mean that we're sick. We have to look a little bit deeper and look at the function inside the body in order to really understand what's going on. And so what does that look like? That looks like taking better care of yourself. It's simple, and I don't want to overcomplicate it or belabor the point, but making small choices today impacts the health that you experience tomorrow, 10 years from now, 20, 30 years down the road. Every day our body is replacing itself with either healthier and healthier cells and tissues or sicker and sicker cells and tissues. Like you have brand new red blood cells every 90 days, a new stomach lining every few weeks, you have a brand new liver every couple of years. Our body's constantly replacing itself with newer and newer cells and tissues. Some of those take forever, like bones take, years, if not decades to turn over. Nerve cells are the same way. But on average, most of your body is like new skin cells every few weeks. Most of your body is more or less brand new every 2 to 3 years, which is wild to think about. You're constantly replacing yourself with healthier and healthier cells and tissues or sicker and sicker cells and tissues. And so the choices that you and I make today for yourself, for me, for my wife, for my kids, the choices we make today impact our health and the health that we experience, not just today and tomorrow, but years and sometimes decades down the road. So I want to empower you. Just start thinking through, what are some of my bad habits? What are things that I can choose better today? And maybe it's just, hey, I have one less cup of coffee, and we'll talk about why coffee is important or why it's totally fine because I'm totally addicted to the stuff later on. We'll talk about like, hey, maybe it's just I have one less sugary drink. Maybe I put a little bit extra greens on my plate, an extra helping of vegetables when I have dinner tonight. Maybe when I'm out to the store, I choose to buy organic apples rather than just conventional. Maybe it's just getting outside and going for a walk. Maybe it's just going out for, a short 10, 15 minute walk. Do one lap around the block, after a meal or after lunch or after dinner or something like that. Just get outside, get some fresh air. What's one small thing that you can do today that you can do the next day and the next day and the next day and the next day? Consistency is the key to change and prevention in our lives. In fact, studies show that focusing on preventative care and lifestyle change can reduce the risk of chronic disease by up to 80%, and that's according to the World Health Organization. So small changes today can impact a massive life change years down the road. What's one thing that you can do today? Write it down in the comments below. I want to hear from you.